of prisms and cylinders. So I'm going to give you the formulas again. You do not have to memorize the formulas. You just have to be able to say, hey, this is this type of figure. I need to use this formula, and then be able to use the formula. Okay? So the first formula we're going to talk about is the volume of a prism. And you maybe talked about how to find the volume of a prism in previous math classes. And you might think of it as length times width times height, which that formula does still kind of work. But sometimes that only works with square or rectangular prisms. Okay? Sometimes we have triangular prisms. So the formula for the volume of a prism is area of the base times height. So big B times height. And that big B stands for area of the base. So if you want to write that note down, I would maybe say big B equals area of base. Okay. And then H stands for height, and that's the height of the figure. You want to make those notes. Big B stands for area of the base. Can I not do this row? I'm losing my mind. I'm sorry. I really have me wrong. Big B stands for area of the base, and H stands for the height of the figure. The volume of a cylinder has a similar formula, okay? If we take a look at the cylinder below, the base of a cylinder is what shape? Circle. So the formula is still area of the base, and we know the area of a circle is pi r squared times the height. So it's a similar formula, but we always just generally use pi r squared times height. Still area of the base, but we just write it out what the actual area is. So it's always going to be a circle. So those are the two formulas. If you're given a prism, you use this formula. If you're given a cylinder, you use that purple formula. And again, you don't have to memorize them. You just have to be able to recognize them. Okay? So in this first example, it says, for a cylindrical drinking glass and a square prism drinking glass of the same dimensions, which one would you rather have? And I guess it just depends on what is in it. If you're really thirsty and there's water, you probably want one that's bigger. There's something like poison, I don't know if I want to drink the bigger glass, but we'll just assume there's like water and you're really thirsty. Okay? Well, let's find the volume of both shapes. So we're going to find the volume of the cylinder first. And I know this is my cylinder because it has two circles as the base. Okay? Let's find the volume of the cylinder first. So first, I know I'm finding the volume of the cylinder. I'm going to write the formula down. First step, identify your figure, then write down the formula. Every time you're doing volume. And then you have to find those variables. Plug in. R, what does R stand for? Radius. We have to find the radius of that cylinder. And then H again stands for the height of the figure. So looking at our diagram, what's the radius of that cylinder? 3. Yeah. Just go to one of the circles, one of the bases. And this diagram here, it's going all the way across, so it's 6. So go halfway for your radius, and that would be 3. Okay. And the height. But I like to think when you're looking at the figure, the height's what's connecting your two bases. So what is connecting our two circles? 12. So 12 is your height. So then you just take those numbers and plug them into your formula. That volume is equal to pi times r squared times 12. We're going to leave it in terms of pi first and then round. Generally, we leave cylinders in terms of pi, but for real world problems, we round to get a better idea of what the volume is. So first, just plug those in your calculator. You're going to do 3 squared times 9. What do we get when we do 3 squared times 9? What is it? 108. 108. So in terms of pi, the volume is 108 pi. When we do volume, it'd be inches what? Cubed. We're going to find volume is cubed. That's what that volume is in terms of pi. Let's round our answer. So in your calculator, you're going to do 108 times pi in your calculator. And then round to like near 10. What do we get? 10? So 339.3 cubic inches, roughly. Okay, that's roughly what is in that cylinder. Yes. We plug this in our calculator. We did 3 squared times 12. And that gives us 108. So that's the volume of the cylindrical drinking glass. Now let's find the volume of that square prism. Okay? And what makes it a prism is it has 2 bases. And the type of prism is what the shape of the base is. So if it's a square prism, that means the bases are squares. So the top is a square, and the bottom is a square. Okay? And then there's rectangles that are connecting the top and the bottom. That's what makes it a prism. There's 2 bases. We get into pyramids tomorrow, which only has 1 base, and that's how you can tell the difference. But prisms have 2 bases. Okay? So write down the formula for finding the volume of a prism. So we're going to write down the formula for the volume of a prism. Area of the base times the height. And we need to find our 2 variables. So we need to find our big B and our H. And again, big B stands for area of the base. If it's a square prism, what's the shape of the base? Square. Right? So what's the formula for the area of a square? What is it? Someone said it. What is it? Because look, what's that's not how it's written on your formula sheet. Base times height. This is how it's written on your formula sheet. Base times height. Okay. What I like to do when I have prisms, because sometimes we get our measurements mixed up, I take the shape of my base and redraw it. Okay, so our base is a square, so I'm going to draw my square with the same dimensions. Because sometimes it gets tricky and we get other numbers in there that aren't supposed to be in there. So just redraw your base with those dimensions they give you, and then use that to find the area. Okay? So what is our base of our square? What's the base of the square? 6. What's the height of my square? 6. This is where it gets tricky. Because if you notice, there's an H here, and there's an H there. 2 completely different H's. Okay? This H in the volume formula is the height of the entire figure. This H in the big B formula is the height of just your base. So don't get those 2 mixed up. That's why I like to redraw my base, because sometimes we get these 2 H's mixed up. Okay? And I just focus on that shape. So when we plug that in our calculator, what do we get when we do 6 times 6? 36. Okay? So that's the area of my base. Okay? Now we need to figure out, well, what's my height? Okay? What's the height of my figure? What's connecting your 2 bases? 12. Okay? Another way to think about it is you only use each measurement 1 time. Okay? So we already used both 6's in my area. So then what's left over is here, the 12. So that has to be my height. Okay? So now I know my big B, now I know my height. I plug it into our volume formula. So volume equals 36 times 12. Plug in your calculator. What's 36 times 12? 432. 432? Did you get 432? And again, it'd be inches cubed. Well, if these were both full of water and you were very, very, very thirsty, which one would you rather drink out of? What? From the block one? The prism? Yep, has more. Has the most. So we would say the prism. Now, let's say you weren't that thirsty, you don't really like water, then you probably want to drink out of the one with less. What? You ever seen like the rectangular prism glasses?
Yeah, for plants.
For plants? I had those, I think, growing up. They're like square. generally make them cylindrical now because it's easier, but they're really square. Glasses. Corners make it kind of more trickier to make, but they do exist. Okay. Questions? So let's take a look at some more. We're going to skip A. We're going to do that one for last because that's a little bit trickier. But we're going to do B and C. And then we'll save the harder one for last. If we take a look at B, we want to find the volume of all these figures. And it tells us what the figure is in B. It's an oblique cylinder, meaning it's slanted. Right? Whenever you have a slanted figure, how you find the volume doesn't change. Same exact steps. Doesn't matter if it's straight up or down or slanted. The volume process is the exact same. So we have a cylinder. Write down the formula for a cylinder. What is the formula for a cylinder? Good. Pi r squared times the height. So we need to know our radius, and we need to know our height. Oh, I forgot this. R. Looking at our diagram, what's our R? What's our radius? 4. Good. What's our height? 9. Yeah, when it's oblique, when it's slanted like this, your height is just up. On the outside, straight down. That's your height. It makes a right angle. It's not what's connecting your bases because it's slanted. Height is always straight up and down. So this time around, it's 9. So plug those values in. Your formula. When we do that, again, leave it in terms of pi. 4 squared times 9. What do we get when we do 4 squared times 9? Okay? 144. And then don't forget to tack on pi. And when it comes to cylinders, unless it's like a real world problem, leave it in terms of pi. You just have to plug in the numbers and then tack on pi. And again, we're on volume, so we label it yards what? So there's the volume. Yes. If the directions specifically say leave in terms of pi, you will lose a point if you don't. You will lose a point if you don't leave in terms of pi. Yeah. Even if you accidentally do it, you will lose a point if the directions say leave in terms of pi and you don't. Okay. So just make sure, pay close attention to the directions in your work. Double check things. If we take a look at C, what kind of figure do we have? Do we have a cylinder or do we have a prism? Prism, yeah. One way to know you don't have a cylinder is there's no circle. Okay? So we know it's a prism. So let's write down the formula for area of a prism, volume of a prism. What is the formula for volume of a prism? Area of the base times height. Big B times your H. Okay? So we have to find those two things. And again, big B stands for area of the base. Height stands for height of the figure. So let's find our big B first. So again, we're going to find our big B first. So in order to find our big B, we have to figure out, well, what is the shape of my base? Looking at this diagram, what do you think the shape of our base is? Okay? A triangle. It's what we have two of. Okay? And there's a triangle in the front. And you can't really tell, but technically, there's a triangle in the back. So it makes it a triangular prism. Because there's two triangles and only two. Okay? There's more than one rectangle, so it's not a rectangular prism. So if there's only two up, and there's two triangles. So, to find the area of our base, I'm going to draw my base off to the side, so I only focus on that. So I'm going to draw it exactly how it is in the diagram. Draw my triangle. I'm finding the area of that triangle. So what's the formula for the area of the base? Our base is a triangle. Okay. Good. On your formula sheet, it will be 1/2 base. So if you're trying to reference your formula sheet, that's what it will look like in your head. If you remember it as base times height divided by 2, that is totally fine. So then just looking at your base, We're not looking at anything else in that prism, just the base right now. We have 1 half times. What's the base of your base? What's the base of that triangle? Looking at that diagram, what's the base of that triangle? Oh, what's the height of that triangle? 8. So when you plug that in your calculator, what's 1 half times 12 times 8? 48. So that's the area of your base. Now we need to look at that. Go back to the entire figure. What's the height of your entire figure? What's connecting your two bases? 20. Another way of looking at it. We already used 12. We already used 8. The only other measurement is 20, so that has to be your height. So then plug it into the volume formula. Big B times H, so 48 times 20. What do we get when we do 48 times 20? Oh, that's right. These are wonderful. So let's talk about 960. 960. And again, we will label this centimeters cubed. Questions over that? If we take a look at A, now we're going to jump to A. And again, A was a little bit of a trickier one, so that's why I saved it for last. What shape do we have? Prism or cylinder? Do you see circles on that? Does that look like a soup can? Oh, a weird soup can. Or a can of pop. That is a prism. Think cylinders look like a can. Has a circle on the top, circle on the bottom. If there's no circles, it is not a cylinder. Okay, it's going to be a prism. So we have a prism. What's the formula for the volume of a prism? Big B times H. Good. Okay. So now we have to figure out what our big B and what our H is. Okay. So we have to figure out what's the shape of my base. Well, what is there only 2 of in that prism? There's 2 what? Triangle. Okay. There's a triangle here. So our base is a triangle. So I'm going to redraw that triangle off to the side so I only focus on that when I find my big B. Well, it's saying that this part is 8. It didn't give me anything for this part, but it tell me what the hypotenuse was. Yeah, it's 17, because this triangle and this triangle are exactly the same. The bases are exactly the same. They're identical, and they're across from each other. So this part in that back triangle is 17. This part in the front triangle is also going to be 17. So I'm going to label that. So what is the formula for the area of a triangle? Okay. So if we look at our triangle, did it tell us what our base was? Did it tell us what the base was? No, it didn't tell us what the base was. What's the height? 8. Well, the issue here is we don't know what the base is of our base. They didn't tell us it. But is there something we can do to find it? Well, what shape is our base? What type of triangle? A right triangle. Well, what can we use to find the missing side of a right triangle? Yeah, we can use the Pythagorean theorem. This is going to happen a ton in this unit. If one of your pieces is missing, you have to use Pythagorean theorem to find it. So you do this a lot. Okay? So if your base is missing, if your height is missing, if something is missing, you're going to be using the Pythagorean theorem to find it. Okay? So if we look at our diagram, which one has to be our C? Yeah, across from the 90, that has to be your C. Then it doesn't matter, I'll make that my A and that my B. Plug them in. So I'll make it 8 squared plus x squared, that's what we're trying to find, equals 17 squared. And then we're just going to solve for x. When we do that, what is 8 squared? 64. plus x squared equals what's 17 squared? 39. We want to get x by itself, so we have to move that 64 over. What do we get when we do 289 minus 64? 225. What do we have to remember to do to both sides? Square roots. And when we do that, x is equal to 15. So there's our base. Now we know our base. Now we know our base is 15. Okay. You're going to do that a lot. Something's missing, you use the Pythagorean theorem to find it. So then plug that in your calculator. 1/2 times 15 times 8 is what? What is it? 60. So that's the area of your base. If you look back at your diagram, what's your height? What's connecting your two bases? 13. And then you plug that into your volume formula. Volume is equal to 60 times 13. What do you get when you do 60 times 13? What is it? 70. And we would label it what? Centimeters. So sometimes you're going to have to find one of your missing. And like 95% of the time, you use the Pythagorean theorem. In some instances where you might use trig, but most of the time you're going to use Pythagorean theorem. Okay? Questions over that? We got here. 22. We got time. If we take a look at example 3, it says find the height of the figure with the given volume. Well, what is the shape of this figure? Well, triangular prism. Good. So I'm going to write down the formula for a prism. We want to find the height. That's what we're trying to find. So height can be the only variable in that problem. Right? Well, they told us what V was. What's V? 27. It's the volume. It said the volume was 27. Right? It's equal to something. I don't know what that's going to go there. Times the height. Right? We just have to figure out, well, what's my big B? Sarah said it's a triangular prism. I'm going to redraw my base off to the side. Okay. To find my big B, what formula am I going to use to find that base? A what? It's triangle. The formula for area of a triangle is 1/2 base times height. Okay. Well, what type of triangle? It's a right triangle, and it's also a what type of triangle? How many sides are the same? 2. So it's called a? Nope. Close. Isosceles. So if this is 3, this has 1 tick mark. What's the measurement of that side? 3. Okay. So now, what's the base of my base? 3. What's the height of my base? 3. And then 1/2 times 3 times 3 is what? 4.5. So the area of my base is 4.5, my big B, so I'm going to put it there. We're trying to get h by itself, so what do we need to do to get h by itself? Divide. We're going to divide both sides by 4.5. So we get h is equal to, what's 27 divided by 4.5? 6. How would we label that? 6 what? 6 feet. And it's just feet because it's just a dimension. So length doesn't have a square or a cube or anything on it. It's just whatever the dimensions are. Okay? Here's some practice for you to work on. You have a lot more time if we didn't have a 2-hour delay. But here's some practice to work on. You. For Wednesday, that should be okay. Normally Wednesday should be, so I just sort of like here's some practice. Make sure you do work on this.
I'm never responding to you. I'm gonna respond to you, but I'm just gonna say that I don't understand. I just